I'm Jessica Lawrence, 32, and for 10 Christmases, I've felt like a ghost in my own family. This year, I thought things would change. I'd built something extraordinary, something to make them notice me. Yet, there I was at the polished dining table, watching everyone open extravagant gifts while my spot sat empty. Some things never change, I realized. But I wasn't just Jessica, the forgotten middle child, anymore. I'd built an empire. Cozy up, press the like button, and subscribe while I explain how I changed everything for the better. Growing up between two star siblings felt like being stuck in their shadows. My older brother, Tyler, 36, was the family's golden boy. He aced school, won over teachers, and graduated from Harvard Medical School. Now he's a top cardiologist with a perfect wife, two cute kids, and a fancy Boston home. Everyone called him brilliant or exceptional. My parents' eyes lit up when they talked about him. Then there's my younger sister, Rebecca, 28, who got all the beauty genes. 16, she modeled for local shops. By 20, she was with a big New York agency. Now, her face is on magazine covers and billboards nationwide. She's charming, gorgeous, and a magnet for attention. My mom keeps a scrapbook of Rebecca's every ad, showing it off to anyone who stops by. And me? I'm Jessica, always stuck in the middle. Never smart enough to match Tyler or pretty enough to rival Rebecca. Just average, that's how my family saw me. My B-plus grades got size of, Tyler got straight A's. My practical career plans? Rebecca knew her path at your age. My achievements always seemed small next to my siblings' wins. Christmas at our house laid this bare. The Lawrence family gift exchange was more show than heart. My parents, Janet and William, went all out, except for me. I remember being 16, watching Tyler get a shiny new car with a huge red bow. Rebecca got a Paris trip for a cultural experience. Me? A bookstore gift card and a plain sweater. When I hid my letdown, Mom said, "Jessica, don't be ungrateful. Flashy isn't for everyone." It went on like that every year. One Christmas, Tyler got a fancy watch fit for a doctor-to-be, and Rebecca got designer outfits for her modeling gigs. I got mall bath products. Another year, Tyler scored a house down payment, and Rebecca got modeling agency connections. I got kitchen gadgets because, "You're so practical, Jessica." When I spoke up about the unfairness, they called me too sensitive, saying I made it a contest. I started to think maybe I was overreacting, that I didn't deserve better. That feeling sank deep, shaping how I saw myself in the family. Everything changed my junior year at my parents' alma mater. I was forced to go there, chasing a business degree I didn't care about, drowning in impossible expectations. After a brutal call with my dad about my weak grades, I made a choice that shook the family. I dropped out. The reaction was intense. Dad didn't talk to me for weeks. Mom wept over my wasted chances. Tyler preached about duty. Rebecca couldn't grasp why I'd ditch a sure thing. No one asked what I wanted. With what was left of my smaller college fund, I moved to Seattle. I needed space, physical and emotional, to discover who I was outside the middle Lawrence child label. 4 years, our contact was limited to tense holiday visits and phone calls laced with jabs. "How's that internet stuff going?" Dad would scoff. "Still tinkering with websites?" Mom would fret. "Isn't it time for a stable job, dear?" Tyler offered to find me real jobs. Rebecca suggested commercial modeling. "They need regular-looking people, too." They had no clue, and I didn't tell them that my internet stuff was taking off. Began with an e-commerce site I coded myself, selling planners for entrepreneurs. I learned coding at night, studied business on lunch breaks, and poured every cent back in. While they thought I was scraping by, I was growing, a subscription service, an education platform, and productivity apps that grabbed big investors' attention. I kept my wins quiet, partly because they wouldn't get it, but mostly because I still craved their approval on their terms. The irony? The skills they mocked, my creativity, adaptability, digital know-how, drove my success. They clung to old-school paths while I built for the future. till old habits die hard. Every Christmas I went back hoping they'd finally see me. This December was 5 years since I started my company and 10 since I left college. As the holiday neared, I almost skipped the family Christmas. My assistant, Natalie, showed me Bali resort brochures for a peaceful escape. "Just send gifts and call it done," she said. "No one would judge you." I stared at a brochure, my finger tracing the infinity pool sparkling over the ocean. The idea of escaping was so tempting. I'd built a life where I could go anywhere, do anything. Why choose pain? But deep down, I craved closure. Maybe it was my company's latest milestone or just time to let go of hoping for their approval. "Book the flights home," I told my assistant Natalie. "But keep Bali as a backup." Despite everything, a tiny spark of hope flickered. This Christmas could be different. My company, Nexus Platforms, had just bought out our biggest rival, shaking up the tech world. Forbes ran a feature on me, a 2-page spread titled, "The Quiet Revolutionary: How Jessica Lawrence Built a Digital Empire." My company was now worth 9 figures, and experts called me a visionary. I finally had proof of my success, the kind even my status-obsessed family couldn't ignore. Maybe they'd see me, not the disappointing middle child, but the woman who built something real. I wrapped thoughtful gifts for everyone: a rare book for Dad, one he'd mentioned years ago, a vintage brooch for Mom matching her favorite earrings, a donation to a medical foundation for Tyler, and a spa weekend for Rebecca. These weren't to show off, but to prove I'd always paid attention to them. Driving to my childhood home in Connecticut felt like stepping back in time. The Uber stopped at my parents' colonial mansion, decked out with perfect wreaths and twinkling lights. It screamed tradition, the kind my parents lived for. I took a deep breath, bracing myself. Mom opened the door, her face showing mild surprise, as if she hadn't confirmed my arrival. "Jessica, you're here," she said, giving me a quick hug that smelled like Chanel No. 5. She stepped back, eyeing me. "You look professional." "Nice." Inside, the house buzzed. Tyler and his wife, Amanda, arranged gifts under a 12-foot Christmas tree. Their kids, Emma and Ethan, played with pricey electronic toys. Rebecca lounged on the sofa, scrolling her phone, showing Dad something that made him chuckle. "Look who's here," Mom said, her voice flat. Jessica made it after all. Tyler glanced up. "Hey, Maddie. Glad you squeezed us in." That nickname I despised, plus a jab at my absence. Rebecca barely looked up. "Nice sweater." "New." "Nope, same one as last Christmas." Dad nodded my way. "Jessica, trip okay?" Then he turned back to Rebecca's phone. I set my gifts under the tree and offered to help with dinner. Mom waved me off. "Amanda and I have it covered. Too many cooks, you know. Just relax." So I sat on the sidelines watching my family's familiar dance, one that always left me out. Tyler shared hospital stories, Rebecca dished celebrity gossip. When I tried mentioning my company's growth, Dad cut in to ask Tyler about stocks. That night, I overheard something I wasn't meant to. Standing outside the kitchen, I caught Mom's voice through the cracked door. "Did you finalize Rebecca's gift?" she asked Dad. "All set," he replied. "The condo's ready by New Year's. She'll love it. And Tyler's investment account is done. Great start for Emma and Ethan's college funds." A pause. Then Mom said, "Should we have gotten something for Jessica?" She came all this way. Dad's tone was dismissive. "What would we get her? She doesn't need practical stuff, and she never likes our gifts. Besides, we didn't think she'd show. She's fine on her own, right?" I slipped back to the guest room, the old sting of being ignored settling in. Nothing had changed. They still saw me as the same old Jessica, or rather, who I wasn't. Lying awake, I wrestled with what to do: confront them or just survive another Christmas as the afterthought. Part of me wanted to bolt, to ditch this pointless hope for their respect. But the businesswoman in me, who turned challenges into wins, saw another way. I'd wait for Christmas Day. the pattern held, it was time they met the real me. Christmas morning was the usual Lawrence family production. Holiday music floated from the living room where Dad played carols on the grand piano. Mom directed staff setting up a breakfast buffet, the smell of cinnamon rolls, bacon, and coffee filling the air. When I got downstairs, everyone was already there. Tyler's kids played with new toys, clearly opened early, while the adults sipped mimosas and chatted lively. "There you are," Mom said, her smile not reaching her eyes. "We didn't want to wake you. You must be tired from the trip." Truth is, no one told me about the early gathering. A small slight, but oh so familiar. The house was perfect, as always. Garlands on every doorway, hand-blown ornaments on the huge tree, holiday art swapped in for the usual paintings. Mom's weeks of planning shone through. "Jessica, can you help in the kitchen?" Mom asked, though Amanda, Tyler's wife, was already aproned up. Rebecca's saving her hands for a shoot and Tyler's with the kids. In the kitchen, I got stuck peeling potatoes while Mom and Amanda tackled fancy dishes, chatting about a charity gala. I tried joining in, but the topic switched to Amanda's interior designer, someone I'd never met. After an hour, we lined up for the annual Lawrence family Christmas photo by the tree. I was shoved to the edge, easy to crop out. Then came Mom's months in the making dinner. Table, draped in Irish linen, sparkled with Wedgwood china. Elegant place cards sat me at the far end by my niece and nephew, while Mom, Dad, Tyler, and Rebecca claimed the center, where talk flowed freely. First course, butternut squash soup with truffle oil arrived. Dad raised his glass. "To family and another great year." "Tyler, congrats on your research grant." "Rebecca, that Vogue cover was stunning." "To more wins." Glasses clinked, but mine stayed still. I waited for a nod my way. Nothing came. Dinner talk orbited my siblings' lives. Tyler bragged about a Swiss medical conference. Rebecca gushed over a luxury brand campaign. Mom and Dad soaked it up, asking eager questions. I mentioned my company's big acquisition, but Mom just nodded vaguely before asking Rebecca about a director she'd met. By dessert, Yule cakes with spun sugar, I gave up talking. Years of this taught me chasing their attention only hurt more. I helped my niece with her cake, her Santa chatter a small comfort. Then came the big moment, the Lawrence gift exchange Dad's show. He stood by the tree, picking gifts and giving speeches. "First, for Tyler and his lovely family," he said, handing over an envelope. It held papers for a college fund for Emma and Ethan, $100,000 to start, with more to come. Tyler hugged Mom and Dad, Amanda gushing. "This is so generous. The kids are lucky to have you." Next was Rebecca's turn. Dad gave her keys in a velvet box. "For our star," he beamed. "A Manhattan apartment. We know the commute's tough and you deserve this." Rebecca squealed, hugging them. "It's perfect. You're the best." Gift after gift went out. A cruise for my aunt and uncle, a sports car for my cousin fresh out of college. Even the staff got hefty envelopes. I waited, stomach knotting, as the pile shrank. I kept a polite smile, watching others cheer for their gifts. Finally, Dad gave his brother golf clubs and clapped his hands. That's it. Coffee in the living room. Silence hit hard. I'd been skipped, no gift, no mention, not even a small gesture. Everyone felt it. Mom noticed first, eyes widening. "William," she whispered, "nothing for Jessica?" Dad fumbled, embarrassed. "Oh, Jessica, your gift's delayed. Supply chain issues. We'll send it to your place." A weak lie, and we all knew it. Rebecca looked uneasy. Tyler stared at his glass. The rest of the family squirmed. In the past, I'd have nodded, buried the hurt, and helped with dishes to dodge the shame. But not this year. I'd built something I was proud of, something bigger than this room's drama. I didn't need their approval anymore, but they needed to see what they'd missed. I set my napkin down and smiled. "No worries. Actually, I've got something to share." The room went quiet as I left the table. They probably thought I'd slink off to sulk like always. Instead, I went to my suitcase, pulled out a glossy magazine and a slim portfolio, and walked back with purpose. Back in the dining room, they were dodging the awkwardness. Dad poured wine, Mom fussed with plates, my siblings scrolled their phones, classic Lawrence avoidance. I cleared my throat, standing where Dad usually did, at the table's head. Every eye turned to me, some curious, some nervous. "This might be a good time to share some news," I said, my voice calm but firm. I slid the latest Forbes magazine to the table's center, my face on the cover, bold and clear. "What's this?" Dad asked, grabbing it. "That," I said, "is Forbes telling the world how I built my company from nothing to a 9-figure empire in 5 years." A gasp swept the room. Tyler flipped to the article, eyebrows shooting up. "Nexus Platforms? This is yours." "Yes," I replied. "The company I started after dropping out, the choice you all mocked. The internet thing Dad called a waste. The hobby mom said I should ditch for a real job." I opened my portfolio, laying out papers one by one, financials, acquisition deals, property deeds. "Last month, we bought our biggest competitor for $87 million. We've got 15 million users worldwide and 300 employees across 4 offices." I paused, letting it hit. "And I own 62% of it." Mom's hand shook as she clutched her wine glass. "Jessica, why didn't you tell us?" "I tried for years," I said. "Every time I brought up my work, you changed the subject or ignored me. My wins meant nothing to you." I looked each of them in the eye. "Why keep sharing when you clearly didn't care?" Rebecca traced my name on the magazine's headline, her voice soft. "It says you're worth over $100 million. $118 million last valuation," I confirmed. "More than everyone here combined, I'd guess." Dad's face shifted, confusion, disbelief, then the sharp interest I knew from his business deals. "Jessica, this is incredible. You should have told us. We could have helped, given advice." "Could you?" I cut in gently. "You've always called the digital world a fad or a bubble ready to pop. You never got it, Dad." I faced the whole table. "I'm not here to brag or make anyone uneasy. But after years of being ignored, after another Christmas where I'm the only one with no gift, not even a small one, it's time for some truth." The silence was heavy. And Julia spoke first. "Jessica, we had no clue. Your parents said you were just finding yourself. It was easier for them to say that than admit they didn't get or approve of my path," I said. "Easier than seeing the middle child didn't fit their idea of success." Mom's face reddened. "That's unfair, Jessica. We've always supported you. Have you?" I asked quietly. "When did you last ask about my work with real interest? When did you celebrate my wins like you do Tyler's or Rebecca's? When have I ever felt as valued as them?" Tension was thick. Tyler shifted, looking uneasy. "Maddie, no one meant to make you feel less. Intent and impact aren't the same, Tyler," I said. "And it's Jessica, not Maddie. I've asked you to stop that since we were kids." Setting that boundary, something new for me, left him speechless. Rebecca, quick to read the room, tried to pivot. "This is amazing, Jessica. I always knew you were smart. Need models for your ads? I can hook you up with my agency." Her attempt to latch onto my success stung once. Now it just confirmed what I'd sensed about us. "Thanks," I said politely. "But our Seattle agency focuses on tech and values diversity in their campaigns." Dad, now in his business mode, leaned in. "Jessica, let's talk plans. Thought about going public?" "I know some top bankers who," I cut him off softly. "We've got the country's best IPO expert on retainer. Our strategy's set." His shocked look almost made me laugh. He wasn't used to me saying no. Cousin Sarah, who'd barely spoken to me before, piped up. "So, you're in Seattle now? Like in a mansion?" "A penthouse downtown and a cabin on Lake Washington," I said simply. I travel a lot. The room's vibe shifted. Family who'd hovered around Tyler and Rebecca now drifted toward me. Conversations that once shut me out now waited for my input. This was what I'd once craved, to be seen, included, valued. But now I saw it for what it was, interest tied to what I could offer, not who I was. Mom, ever the poised hostess, tried to steer things back. This calls for a celebration. William, let's open that special champagne. No need, I said, gathering my papers. I'm not staying. What? Dad said, stunned. It's Christmas. Where are you going? I've got a suite at the Four Seasons. My driver's waiting. But it's family time, Mom said, panic creeping into her voice. Her perfect Christmas was falling apart and she couldn't fix it. Yes, I said softly. It is. For years, I've felt like an outsider here. Today proves nothing's changed. The only shift is me. I now value myself enough to leave when I'm diminished. I packed away the magazine and papers, scanning the table. Merry Christmas, everyone. My gifts are under the tree. Enjoy them. As I turned to go, Tyler jumped up. Jessica, wait. You can't just drop this and leave. I stopped. It's not a bomb, Tyler. It's my truth, something I'd have shared years ago if you'd listened. I walked out of the dining room, past the fancy foyer, and into the chilly December night. My driver waited right on time. The ride to the Four Seasons was silent. Snow started falling, blanketing Connecticut in soft white, making it look calm and pure, unlike the storm I'd escaped. I checked into my suite, a big corner room with city views. I changed into comfy clothes, ordered room service, and sank into the sofa. Now I could finally unpack what happened. My phone buzzed nonstop since I left. I knew it would. The screen showed 6 missed calls from Mom, 4 from Dad, 3 from Tyler, texts from Rebecca, and messages from distant relatives suddenly eager to chat. I wasn't ready. I called Natalie, my assistant and friend, instead. How'd it go? She asked right away. Just like you said, I replied, chuckling at the ridiculousness. No gift for me, not even a little one. So you showed them the magazine and portfolio? Their faces, you should have seen them. She paused. Satisfying, finally showing who you are? I thought it over. Not satisfaction. It was standing in my truth, no apologies. I didn't shrink to fit their box this time. I'm proud of you, she said. Now what? No idea, I admitted. But it'll be on my terms. After hanging up, I checked the messages. Mom's texts mixed sorries and excuses. We didn't know you were doing so well. You should have told us. Come back, we can fix it. Dad was blunt. Let's talk business. I have connections to help. Tyler's were thoughtful. I didn't realize how we made you feel. Can we talk? Rebecca's were all about her. Maddie, this is crazy. So much to catch up on. Need a spokesperson? I'm free next quarter. The others? Sudden curiosity about my life, hints at opportunities, invites to connect. After years of quiet snubs, the openness was oddly fresh. Room service knocked. I ate alone, savoring the quiet. This Christmas beat my expectations. I'd hoped for respect, maybe mending ties. Instead, I got clarity and a surprising freedom. My phone rang, Dad. I hesitated, then answered. Jessica, he started, all business boss tone. This is unacceptable. You upset your mother and ruined dinner. Some things stayed the same. Hi to you too, Dad, I said. Don't be smart. Dropping that and walking out? Childish and unprofessional. I breathed deep. Is that all? If so, I'm done. Silence. I'd never talked back like that. Look, he said, switching to deal-closing mode, we started wrong. Your success is great, I'm proud. But hiding it makes you look bad. I didn't hide it, Dad, I said. I shared plenty. You ignored me. That's not true, he said weakly. Last Thanksgiving, I told you about major funding. You switched to Tyler's boat. 2 Christmases back, I mentioned our new office. Mom had Rebecca show her magazine instead. Silence grew. Truth is, I said, my wins don't match your story for me. Easier to see me as the failure than admit you were wrong. Unfair, Jessica. Is it? I asked. Why, at 32, am I still the only one without a real Christmas gift? Why ignore my successes while hyping Tyler's and Rebecca's every step? His voice softened. We didn't know about the magazine or your value. That's the issue, I said. My worth here depends on outsiders saying I'm big. But my hard work, my guts to choose my path, none of that mattered to you. Another pause. Your mom wants you back. Brunch tomorrow, whole family. Not a good idea, I said. I need space. Jessica, he said, confused. What do you want from us? Question hit me. He really didn't get it. Nothing, Dad, I said. That's it. I craved your approval, your pride, equal value like Tyler and Rebecca. But I don't anymore. I've made a full life with people who see the real me. After hanging up with Dad, Mom texted asking to meet at the hotel tomorrow. I agreed to coffee in the lobby. Whatever came next, I knew our relationship had shifted. For better or worse, that was okay. Later, watching snow dust the city from my window, I felt different. The emptiness I'd carried through so many Christmases was gone. Not joy, but peace. I'd stopped waiting for my family to define my worth and claimed it myself. My phone pinged, Tyler asking for a real talk once things settled. I owe you an apology, he wrote. Several, actually. It was the first honest message from my brother in years. I'd like that, I texted back. As I got ready for bed, I realized my family's oversight, no gift for me, gave me something greater, the guts to own my truth. The days after Christmas surprised me. Word of my success spread fast among relatives. Suddenly, cousins who barely knew me sent congratulatory texts and lunch invites. My cousin Allison, always closer to Rebecca, posted an old photo of us with, "So proud of my brilliant cousin Jessica," though we hadn't spoken in a decade. Uncle David, Dad's business partner, called about synergies between my company and his firm. I politely declined, citing our different markets. He was shocked I didn't need his help, and that threw him. Then came emails from distant relatives, asking if I had jobs for their kids. Sarah's graduating business school, wrote Mom's cousin, someone I'd met maybe thrice. I set clear boundaries, giving polite but vague replies to opportunists. For genuine asks, I pointed them to our HR process, fair for all applicants. The next morning, I met Mom in the hotel lobby. She seemed smaller, her usual poise faded. Her eyes showed she hadn't slept. Jessica, she started, coffee in hand, I don't know where to begin. Try the truth, I said gently. She fidgeted with her diamond bracelet, a gift from Dad. I never meant to make you feel less than your siblings. Believe me. I believe you didn't mean to hurt me, I said. But it still did. You were always so different, she said. Tyler and Rebecca's paths were clear. You? You went your own way. I didn't know how to reach you. Did you try? I asked. Did you ever care about what mattered to me instead of pushing me into your mold? She stared at her coffee, silent. I thought I was protecting you, she said at last. The world values certain successes. I wanted that for you. And when I succeeded my way, where was the praise? I asked. A tear fell. I didn't get it. It didn't look like success to me. She looked up. That was my mistake, not yours. It was our rawest talk ever. For once, Mom saw me, not her idea of me, but the woman I'd become. I can't undo the past, she said. But I want to know your life now, if you'll let me. Didn't erase years of distance, but it was a start. 2 days later, I met Tyler for lunch at a quiet restaurant away from family noise. He didn't make excuses. "I've been an awful brother," he said plainly. "I didn't see it until Amanda called me out yesterday." I raised an eyebrow. "Amanda?" He nodded. "She was livid about Christmas. Said she's been uneasy about how we treat you for years, but felt it wasn't her place to speak." He paused. "Amanda also said I've been competing with you forever, even when you weren't trying to compete." "Competing?" I said. "You were always the star." "And I burned myself out keeping that up," he admitted. "Know how scary it is to be perfect Tyler. One slip and everyone notices." I hadn't thought of it that way. "Sounds draining." "It is," he said, poking at his food. "When you left college, I was jealous. You had the nerve to ditch expectations." "I never did." "You love medicine," I said. "I do," he replied. "But the politics, the pressure, the comparisons, I hate it. I wonder if I'd have chosen differently with real freedom." He looked at me. "Seeing you build your life your way made me question mine. It was easier to brush off your choices than face my own." It was a raw confession from my always confident brother. "I'm sorry for the nickname," the snide remarks, "for not sticking up for you with Mom and Dad. For everything." Later that week, Rebecca invited me to her city loft. Not the new one from Mom and Dad, but her current trendy spot. Unlike Tyler's direct apology, Rebecca sidestepped. "Your Forbes outfit was stunning," she said, pouring us fancy champagne. "Who's your stylist?" "You need to meet mine." Classic Rebecca, focusing on looks, not feelings. But as we talked, real moments slipped through. After her second glass, she asked, "Know why I started modeling?" I shrugged. "Because you're gorgeous." Her laugh was sharp, not her usual charm. "It was the one thing you and Tyler couldn't touch. You were both so brainy, always debating stuff I didn't get. But beauty? That was mine." "You're not just pretty, Rebecca. You're smart," I said. She brushed it off. "Not like you or Tyler. I learned early my value was my face. I leaned in because I could win there." She looked at me raw. "Know what it's like to have your worth tied to something that'll fade? Something you can't control?" I got it, basing your value on outside measures. I hadn't seen Rebecca's insecurity, so like mine but different. "I was jealous of that magazine," she admitted. "Not your money, but how they praised your brain, your vision. No one writes about me like that." It was a rare, honest peek into my sister, who always seemed so sure of herself. "It's not too late to build something else," I told her. "You're more than your looks." She looked doubtful but curious. "Maybe. I don't even know where to start." "I didn't either," I said. "That's the beauty of carving your own way." As winter turned to spring, my family ties shifted. Dad, better with actions than words, sent me tech articles with notes like, "Thought you'd like this," or "What's your take?" Mom tried to understand my business, asking real questions. Tyler and I started monthly video calls, a surprising bond. Rebecca took online business classes, dipping her toes beyond modeling. Past wasn't erased, and old habits crept in sometimes. But a new honesty and respect grew, something we'd never had. The biggest change was in me. I no longer needed my family's approval to feel worthy. I'd proven to myself I could build something meaningful my way. This showed in my work too. I used my platform to lift up overlooked entrepreneurs, women and minorities in tech like me who defied norms. We launched a mentorship program and a fund for underrepresented founders. In Nexus, I built a culture unlike my family's hierarchy. Every voice mattered, every idea counted. We valued all kinds of success, knowing innovation comes from diverse minds. Next Christmas, the family invite came with a note from Mom. "We get it if you skip, but we're trying to do better. We'd love you here. We're proud of you." Those few words were huge. My choice was respected, my boundaries seen. They wanted me, not expected me. I thought it over and chose to go, not out of duty or needing their praise, but from strength, believing relationships can grow if given a chance. A year later, I drove to my parents for Christmas. So much had changed since last year's dramatic exit. My company soared, expanding globally and starting a foundation for digital literacy in underserved areas. I found balance, splitting time between Seattle and a new beach house for recharging. The Lawrence Christmas felt different. The decorations were still perfect, but the vibe had softened. They hired a photographer for candid shots, not stiff tree portraits. Dinner seating was a circle, no head seats signaling status. The gift exchange, once Dad's big show, was new. We drew names at Thanksgiving, each picking a thoughtful gift for one person. No grand speeches, just sharing why we chose it, valuing heart over price. Mom had my name for the gift exchange. She looked nervous, handing me a small, neatly wrapped box. I struggled to pick something, she said. Nothing felt right. Then I realized you might value something that honors the past. Inside was a silver locket. I opened it to find a tiny photo of me at 10, cross-legged with my first computer, books around me, lost in creating. I found this in old albums, Mom said. This was you, always building, dreaming big when we didn't see it. I should have celebrated that. It wasn't about money, it was her seeing me, really seeing me for the first time. Tyler gave Rebecca tools for her new beauty channel, focused on aging gracefully, not youth obsession. Rebecca gifted Dad shared experiences, cooking classes, wine tastings, moments to connect, not just stuff. Our family wasn't perfect. Old habits crept in, tension, assumptions, missteps. But we were trying, facing issues head-on instead of hiding behind polite talk or performances. After dinner, Tyler and I sat in the kitchen, the others playing board games. He stared at his whiskey, thoughtful. This year I realized something, he said. I've chased status, top schools, specialties, neighborhoods, without asking if it's what I want. Is it? I asked. He shrugged. Some is, some isn't. I love medicine but hate the politics. Amanda and I are thinking of a smaller town, practicing with more heart, less show. Mom and Dad would lose it, I said. He laughed. Yeah, but I'm ready to choose for me, not them. He toasted me. Learn that from you. That year, I committed to therapy to unravel the intricate web of my family's influence on my life. It was a journey I hadn't anticipated being so raw, so revealing. I found Dr. Elena Ramirez through a colleague's recommendation, a Seattle-based therapist known for her direct approach and knack for cutting through emotional clutter. Her office, perched on the 6th floor with a view of Puget Sound, became my sanctuary every Tuesday afternoon. The first sessions were like pulling at a loose thread on a sweater I'd worn for decades. Each tug unraveled more than I expected, exposing the frayed fabric of my self-worth. I'd leave her office feeling like I'd been cracked open, my chest tight with memories of being the overlooked middle child. Like the time I presented a homemade website for a school project, only for Mom to gush over Rebecca's new modeling headshots at dinner. Or the countless family gatherings where my solid achievements, B-plus grades, a regional coding competition win, were met with shrugs, overshadowed by Tyler's Harvard acceptance or Rebecca's magazine covers. Dr. Ramirez didn't let me wallow. Family dynamics are systems, she said one rainy afternoon, her voice steady as I clutched a mug of chamomile tea. They're not random. Everyone plays a role, not as heroes or villains, but as cogs in a machine you all built together. Even the painful parts served a function. I frowned, skeptical. What function could being ignored possibly have? She leaned forward, her gaze piercing. It forged your independence, Jessica. Being sidelined gave you space to carve your own path, free from the suffocating expectations Tyler faced or the beauty trap that snared Rebecca. It turned your hurt into fuel for building something extraordinary. She paused, letting the idea settle. The goal isn't to point fingers, it's to see the patterns clearly so you can decide which ones to keep and which to rewrite. That perspective was a revelation, like turning a kaleidoscope to see the same pieces form a new image. I began to see my family not as antagonists but as players in a shared script, each of us shaped by invisible forces. Tyler's relentless perfectionism wasn't just ambition, it was a survival tactic in a household where exceptional was the minimum for love. I remembered him as a teenager, hunched over textbooks until 3 a.m., his eyes bloodshot, terrified of losing his golden child status. Rebecca's fixation on her appearance? It grew from early moments, like when Dad framed her first local ad campaign, while my attempts at coding apps were dismissed as cute hobbies. Our parents' rigid definition of success, prestigious degrees, visible accolades, came from their own upbringings where stability meant sticking to proven paths. My mother once mentioned her father's insistence on respectable careers, a legacy she and Dad carried forward without questioning. We were all caught in the same system, reacting in ways that perpetuated it. Tyler striving, Rebecca shining, me retreating inward to prove myself alone. This understanding didn't erase the sting of being overlooked, but it softened my resentment. I saw their actions less as personal rejections and more as symptoms of a flawed dynamic we'd all fed into. My role as the invisible child had driven me to Seattle, to late nights coding my first e-commerce site, to building Nexus platforms from nothing. But it also left me with a reflex to overachieve, to measure my worth in metrics, user numbers, revenue, headlines. Therapy helped me confront that too. One session, I admitted how I'd check my company's valuation obsessively, as if it could finally make me enough. Dr. Ramirez challenged me. What if you're already enough, Jessica? Not because of Nexus, but because of who you are. It was a question I wrestled with for weeks, slowly dismantling the belief that my value hinged on external proof. Healing wasn't about my family delivering a perfect apology or rewriting history. It was my responsibility to redefine my place in the system. I practiced setting boundaries, like when Dad tried steering a call toward his investment contacts. I'd calmly say, "I appreciate it, but my team's got this." Or when Mom asked about my personal life in a way that felt like probing for flaws, I'd redirect, "Let's talk about what I'm excited about, my new mentorship program." Speaking my truth became a muscle I strengthened, no longer swallowing my needs to keep the peace. Most importantly, I chose which ties to nurture. I didn't need to sever my family entirely, but I could decide how close to let them come, prioritizing my emotional safety over obligation. Beyond my blood family, I'd cultivated a chosen family that became my bedrock. These were the people who saw me without the baggage of childhood roles. Natalie, my COO and closest friend, was there from the start when Nexus was just a laptop and a dream. We met when she responded to a desperate job posting I'd slapped together, back when my headquarters was a corner table at a Capitol Hill cafe. Her sharp wit and unshakable loyalty turned our partnership into something deeper. Over late-night brainstorming, pizza boxes strewn across my tiny apartment, she'd call out my tendency to overwork, saying, "Jess, the world won't end if you sleep." She celebrated my quirks, like my obsession with color-coded spreadsheets, without judgment, and her faith in me bolstered my own. My Nexus team was another pillar, a vibrant tapestry of coders, creatives, and strategists who shared my vision of tech as a force for inclusion. Our weekly Innovation Fridays were sacred. Everyone pitched ideas, from junior interns to senior leads, no hierarchy. I'd watch Aisha, a young designer, light up as her UI concept was greenlit, or Javier, our lead engineer, mentor a shy intern through a coding snag. These moments weren't just about work. They were about building a community where everyone felt seen. Our annual retreats in the Cascades cemented this. Days spent kayaking and nights around campfires, sharing stories of triumphs and failures. One evening, Priya, a data analyst, confided how my journey inspired her to pursue her own startup dreams despite her family's doubts. Her courage, in turn, pushed me to take bolder risks, like launching our AI-driven collaboration platform. Even my Seattle neighborhood wove a thread into this chosen family. A mix of artists, educators, and small business owners, we hosted monthly potlucks that became my refuge. Lila's cozy bungalow, a single mom and illustrator, we'd crowd around her dining table, plates piled with homemade tamales, vegan curry, or my slightly overbaked brownies. Everyone's voice mattered. Whether it was Lila's stories of balancing motherhood and art or Marcus, a barista turned poet, reciting his latest work. One night, as we debated dreams versus practicality, I shared my leap from college dropout to tech founder. Their cheers and questions, genuine, not opportunistic, showed me what connection could be. These bonds, rooted in mutual respect and vulnerability, became my model for healthy relationships. They gave me the strength to face my family without the old ache for their approval, knowing I had a circle that already embraced the real me. Professionally, this inner shift fueled a transformation at Nexus. I poured my energy into tech that connected rather than divided. We expanded beyond productivity tools, launching platforms like CollabSphere, which used AI to suggest inclusive language in team chats, bridging cultural gaps for global workers. Another, ConnectSphere, paired startups with mentors from marginalized communities, amplifying voices often ignored in tech. These weren't just products, they were extensions of my journey from invisibility to impact. I remembered the sting of being dismissed at family dinners. Now I built tools to ensure no one felt unheard. Our mission pivoted from raw efficiency to human-centered teamwork. We introduced features like workload balance alerts, flagging burnout risks, and anonymous feedback channels to elevate quieter voices. At a conference, a user, a nurse managing a rural clinic, told me how CollabSphere helped her coordinate with international aid groups, saving lives. Stories like hers were my North Star, far outweighing the thrill of our stock climbing or landing a Forbes feature. Profits soared, we crossed 20 million users and secured deals with global brands, but they were the byproduct, not the purpose. Aligning my values with my work brought a joy no balance sheet could match. It was the satisfaction of knowing Nexus wasn't just a company, it was a movement, reshaping how people collaborated, making space for every story. This Christmas, gathered around my parents' dining table in their Connecticut home, I felt a shift in the air, subtle but undeniable. The familiar trappings were there: Mom's meticulously arranged centerpiece of holly and candles, the gleam of Wedgwood china, the faint hum of carols from Dad's old record player, but something had changed. My family was trying, in their own imperfect ways, to meet me where I stood. Mom, usually more comfortable praising Tyler's accolades or Rebecca's beauty, leaned across the table with a spark of curiosity in her eyes. "Tell me about this new platform of yours, Jessica," she said, stumbling over terms like AI integration but listening intently as I explained CollabSphere, our tool for inclusive global teamwork. Her questions weren't perfect, she mixed up cloud with crowd once, but her effort to engage with my world felt like a small victory, a crack in the wall that had long separated us. Dad, who often defaulted to his boardroom persona, started veering into a lecture about tech market trends. I braced for the usual unsolicited advice, but he caught himself mid-sentence, a rare self-awareness flickering across his face. "You know, Jess," he said, his tone softer, "what's driving you these days?" What's the heart of it? It wasn't a full pivot from his old habits, but it was a start, a genuine question rather than a directive. I shared how Nexus was moving toward human-centered tech, and he nodded, not interrupting, just taking it in. Tyler, sitting across from me, was quieter than usual, his usual polish softened by something more grounded. Over dessert, Mom's famous pecan pie, he opened up about scaling back his hospital hours. "I want to be there for Emma and Ethan," he said, glancing at his kids who were giggling over their hot cocoa. Less time chasing department awards, more time building forts. For Tyler, the golden child who'd spent decades under the weight of perfect, this was seismic. I could see Amanda, his wife, squeeze his hand, her pride in his choice palpable. It reminded me of our lunch months earlier, when he'd admitted to envying my courage to break free from expectations. Now, he was taking his own steps toward a life less defined by external markers. Rebecca, meanwhile, was a whirlwind of energy, sketching marketing ideas for her new age-positive skincare channel on a napkin. "What do you think of this tagline?" she asked, sliding it toward me. Her eyes lit up when I offered feedback, suggesting a tweak to emphasize authenticity over trends. For once, it wasn't about outshining each other. She was treating me like a sister, not a rival. Her enthusiasm was infectious, and I found myself smiling, remembering our talk at her loft, where she'd confessed her fear of being valued only for her looks. Seeing her explore new paths, even tentatively, felt like a shared triumph. The evening wasn't flawless. Dad's brusqueness surfaced when he grumbled about the turkey being slightly overcooked, and Mom fussed over the table settings as if perfection could hold the family together. Old patterns lingered, like faint echoes of the Christmases where I'd sat silently, my presence barely acknowledged. But this time there was a difference, a willingness to try, to listen, to meet me halfway. It wasn't a sitcom ending, all hugs and harmony, but it was real, a fragile bridge built on mutual effort. Later, as we settled by the crackling fireplace, the glow casting soft shadows across the living room, I reflected on what this moment meant. The warmth of the fire mirrored something deeper, a clarity about the empire I'd built, one far greater than Nexus Platform's nine-figure valuation or the Forbes cover that had stunned my family last year. My true empire was the self-worth I'd forged through years of grappling with hard truths. It hadn't come easily. Therapy with Dr. Elena Ramirez had been a crucible, each session like peeling back layers of scar tissue to reveal wounds I'd ignored for decades. I'd walk out of her office some days feeling raw, my throat tight from recounting moments like the Christmas I got a generic gift card while Tyler received a car and Rebecca a Paris trip. Those memories weren't just about gifts, they were about being unseen, my efforts dismissed as practical or adequate next to my siblings' dazzling successes. In one particularly grueling session, I'd sobbed as I described the weight of always needing to prove myself. Why did I tie my worth to their approval for so long? I'd asked, voice breaking. Dr. Ramirez didn't offer platitudes. You were a child in a system that taught you your value was conditional, she said. But you're not that child anymore. You get to redefine what's enough. Those raw moments, where I mourned the validation I'd never get from my parents, taught me to parent myself with compassion. I learned to celebrate my own wins, small ones like a quiet morning journaling at my beach house and big ones like Nexus's global expansion, without needing anyone's applause. Tough conversations with my family had been another forge for this empire. Talking with Mom about her blind spots was like navigating a minefield. One evening, over coffee in Seattle, I'd said, "When you ignored my coding projects but framed Rebecca's ads, it told me I wasn't worth noticing." Her eyes welled up, but she didn't deflect. "I didn't see you," she admitted. "I thought I was guiding you, but I was wrong." It wasn't a full fix, but it was a start, a crack in her polished exterior that let honesty seep through. With Tyler, our lunch after last Christmas had been a turning point. His admission of his own pressures, being the perfect son, built a bridge where resentment once stood. "I was too busy keeping up my image to see how I hurt you," he'd said, and I believed him. Those talks, painful as they were, replaced old grudges with tentative trust. Doubts still crept in, especially on sleepless nights when I'd replay those conversations, wondering if I'd been too harsh or not clear enough. Had I pushed my family away by revealing my success so boldly last year? Should I have stayed silent longer? But each doubt was a chance to reaffirm my path. Every boundary I set, like telling Dad, "I value your input, but my team's strategy is set," and every truth I spoke, like reminding Rebecca I was Jessica, not Maddie, widened the road to authenticity. It wasn't about perfection, it was about progress, about choosing who I wanted to be in each moment. That choice defined me now. I was no longer the middle child fading into the background, the one who sat quietly while Tyler and Rebecca shone. I was Jessica Lawrence, a woman who couldn't be overlooked or confined by anyone's expectations. My empire wasn't just Nexus's skyscraper offices or the headlines calling me a tech visionary. It was my sovereignty over my decisions, my story, my life. I saw it in the mentorship program I'd launched, guiding young women in tech through their insecurities just as I'd navigated mine. I'd spend hours with ments like Priya, a brilliant coder whose family doubted her career choice, sharing stories of my own leaps, dropping out, moving to Seattle, betting on myself. "You don't need their permission to shine," I'd tell her, echoing the lesson I'd learned. This sovereignty glowed in quiet moments too, like evenings at my beach house on the Washington coast. I'd sit on the deck, waves lapping against the shore, journaling thoughts free from the need to perform. No boardroom, no family expectations, just me, the salt air, and a notebook filled with dreams and doubts. It was there, in that stillness, that I felt most myself, unburdened by the need to prove anything. My empire lived in the laughter shared with my Nexus team, too. After long days, we'd order takeout, greasy dumplings or spicy tacos, and crowd around a conference table, celebrating a new feature's launch. Those moments, when we toasted to a platform that helped a small business in Ghana connect with global markets, reminded me why I'd started this. We weren't just coding apps, we were changing lives, proving that tech could amplify every voice, not just the loudest. As we passed plates this Christmas, stories and laughter weaving through the clink of glasses, a warmth settled in my chest, one I hadn't felt in the tense, performative holidays of my past. It wasn't a fairy tale resolution. Families aren't sitcoms with neat endings. There were still stumbles, dad's occasional gruffness, mom's fussing over details, but the effort to connect, to see me as I was, made it real. It was a warmth earned through hard-won honesty, through everyone's willingness to try, even when it felt awkward or new. Sitting there, watching my niece and nephew giggle as Rebecca taught them a silly dance, I thought of you out there, sharing this moment with me. Have you ever felt like a shadow in your own life, your worth tied to someone else's measure? Maybe it was a parent who never saw your art, a sibling who overshadowed your wins, or a workplace that dismissed your ideas. What was the spark, the moment, big or small, that helped you claim your voice? How did it shift your relationships, your purpose, your sense of self? I'd love to hear your story in the comments, your struggles, your breakthroughs, the steps you took to stand tall. Your journey matters, and sharing it could light the way for someone else. If my tale struck a chord, hit that like button, subscribe for more stories of finding your truth, and share with someone who might need this reminder. Your value doesn't hinge on anyone's spotlight. It's in you, waiting to be claimed. Thank you for being part of this path with me, for listening as I navigate mine. Here's to holidays filled with real connections, bold truths, and the courage to shine as you are, unapologetically.